and then from there, like, I guess I always knew that I was gonna want to do like a legit recording project eventually, but before now, so like, i.e. my first 2 years of college, I was just kind of like just in my free time, just like doing covers and writing and sometimes putting up things on YouTube, like sometimes putting up things on SoundCloud, like for better or worse, I was really shameless about putting up like unfinished, really demo stage things. My older brother Andrew, who's a musician, he was like, tell me not to do that. He thought it was kind of like, I don't know. But basically, I guess I'm kind of glad that I had this like shamelessness about posting stuff that was really bad.
I think that's good. Like, I'm the exact opposite. I just won't post anything. I think it's good to just get yourself out there.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, Nate's always very supportive. No, it's true. But like, even with this, Nate's like, I appreciate that someone thinks that it's a good idea that I did that.
Yeah, like to an extent, it's good. I mean, obviously, if you're
balance it, but yeah.
Definitely. So, how did you guys sort of get to where you're at now? Did you was it through University Records, or?
Yeah.
For those that are listening and maybe don't know the backstory between y'all's relationship.
Yeah. I don't think many people do, so I like answering this.
Me included, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were both part of University Records, which is a club that we're both the co-presidents of it now, which is fun.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, it's really we just have such a good we're friends, and we have a good like working relationship too with music, so like we're both excited that it worked out this way. But anyway, there was the president at the time of University Records, Veronica. I think she knew that I wanted to do a recording project. I don't really know. There's some things that just like I just don't remember, but she must have known that I wanted to do a recording project, and then she knew that you were a producer. You had sort of like made that known, and then she linked us up, and we met up. And honestly, the first time we met up was like so inconsequential. I don't even really remember it. But the bottom line is we met, and then like months down the line, we just like met to talk, I think. But anyway, months down the line, we were doing a house show in the February of 2019. It was a University Records house show, and I think you guys were playing at it. I think Cougar Beatrice was playing at it. But Nate was sitting there in a chair by himself, and I just finished playing, and I like walked by him, and you were like, "Hey, I don't know." You were like, "Oh, it sounded nice. Like, would you want to record together or something?" And we were like basically like flattering each other a lot, because like I couldn't believe that someone wanted to record me based on our performance, and you couldn't believe that someone wanted to record with you. And
I thought you were just gonna be like, I was gonna ask you like, hey, maybe I could produce your thing, and you would be like, oh yeah, sure, and then like ghost me later, because
I'm sitting amongst two very modest people over here. Like, but it all worked out, and man, that's how a lot of these type of things probably come about. And so where did it go from there? Were you already working on what is now going to be the EP at that time, or what was kind of in your mind that you were going to work together on?
That's a really good question. At the time, I think it was like I was starting to like generate the idea that I wanted to record the EP, but it wasn't like I kind of didn't have a sense of like realistically how it could happen. So I think I was just kind of like, I guess I knew that I wanted to do it, but I wasn't really too concerned about when, because I was so distracted by like playing gigs and stuff at the time, and also just like being a student and stuff. I just like had a lot on my mind, so I knew that I wanted to do it, but it just wasn't like the biggest priority like for me right then and there. But from there, like after flattering each other and being like, all right, well, let's try to do this, we ended up meeting up in the summer, so this past summer 2020, and the terrible summer that will go down in history. But anyway, we met up, and we met with each other, and then my manager, Molly Strouchler, she's part of WXTJ Student Radio. Anyway, we all met up, and we were like, all right, let's do this. What's the plan? I played them my songs live that I wanted to record, and you're like, nice. And then we from there, I don't know, I don't want to like talk over you too much, but basically, and then it's funny because we had planned to do the entire EP this past summer 2020, and then we ended up only just starting one of the tracks and never finishing it, because school came about and it kind of got in the way. And so it's actually really funny that we ended up doing the entire thing this winter, winter like 2020, winter 2021, and we didn't think that it was gonna take longer than the summer, but we ended up spending so long just like navigating the new experience of working together and like doing it in a DIY way. But I was gonna say though, sort of like with the serendipity thing and how it was very serendipitous that Nate and I met this way and that it worked out so well. It was also very serendipitous. Like I think that I am really glad that we recorded in the winter of this year, because it's hard to explain, but I feel like I even improved a lot as a player and singer just in the last like 6 months or so. So you'd think that the product would have been relatively similar whether I had recorded it in the summer or whether I'd recorded it in the winter, but I think it turned out to be a lot better of a product because we did it so recently and gave me like enough time to grow. Like I just think some of the creative decisions that I made or the things that I wanted, like I wouldn't have come to if I hadn't had more time to think about it and like mull it over and that kind of thing. So
yeah, I mean, it definitely just took so much longer than we initially had thought, but that's just because we were like new to this whole process and we were testing out a lot of different things. I think when we do this again, it's going to be a lot quicker just because we know what we need to do. We know what the process is like.
Sure. Yeah, it seems like that's at least half the battle is figuring out the process of everything. So what were some of the things that you noticed early on as far as how you were going to go about doing this? First of all, what was the environment that you guys were recording in, and maybe some equipment that you were using, and how was that experience for you?
Yeah, so Nate, I have to give props to Nate for, definitely having a lot more knowledge about this stuff than I did coming into it. But yeah, it was a very DIY recording process, which I think we're like proud of, and I think we think comes through just the right amount in the EP, we hope. Because we wanted it to sound very professional, but we also wanted to like embrace the DIY stuff. Do you think that's audible?
I hope so. I really hope so.
Screaming in the
if it's not, there's a lot of kids playing in the backyard next to us, and it creates a really nice ambiance. But hopefully, it doesn't drown out Caroline's musings.
So we part of the reason that the first track took so long is because it is called Just What I Need, and it's kind of shoegaze inspired slightly in terms of what's going on with all the guitar layers. And so anyway, we used my Fender Blues Junior amp, and initially we were recording direct into the computer, and then after having a lot of it already recorded sort of at the end of the summer, I was like, you know what, Nate, I honestly really want to mic up the amp. Actually, I think it'll sound a lot richer and just more what we want. So Nate was very nice and was like, all right, this is going to be a lot of work, but we'll do it. And so that was like one of those things that we were navigating initially was like just that, like making that change from DI to miking up the amp was like we had to start over with one of the tracks. And then we used my SM58 for like miking up the amp and for my vocals and everything, and my Fender Strat for which I really like the sound of, because I wanted to buy that kind of guitar. I wanted to buy a Fender Strat because up until recently, again, this is one of those things, up until recently, honestly, I hadn't really known too much about the difference between guitars and like what kind I would want specifically for my sound. But after just like, I don't know, just looking into it, learning more and just growing more, I just like realized, I guess a lot of the artists I looked up to used one, but I just like the way it sounds, like kind of mid-heavy. I don't know, it's kind of a general thing to say, but I think I like, I don't know, mids. Just in general, I just like that, like the richness of it. So anyway, I don't know, do you want to say?
In terms of equipment?
Yeah, or
I don't know,
recording process too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't use too much equipment. It was mostly software, in the box recording.
And you're in your basement.
Yeah.
Most of it.
Yeah.
So, Nate lives, I won't disclose your address, but you live in a house.
It's a liability.
You live in a house, and we're recording in the basement that Nate lives in that house. And I think that definitely contributed to like our process in ways that are kind of hard to explain, but I think it shaped like the vibe and like the energy of when we were recording it. But yeah, we had to work around trying not to be too loud as far as bothering the people above us.
Yes.
There was one time we were trying to record distortion, like guitar Feedback, I mean,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Guitar feedback. And obviously you have to turn it up very loud, turn up the gain high, all that. And it, it was just funny, like, just trying to, I don't know, do it and, like, not...
Turn it off as soon as we got the right amount so that we don't annoy the people upstairs.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I mean, that's, like, one of the hardest parts, I feel like, of making music is, like, finding a good place to record things. If you're... At least if you're doing like organic sounds and stuff like that.
For sure. But that said, you guys have obviously, as you were alluding to, kind of got it down to a process now. And that's, do you feel like this would be something that you would stick with as far as the process for recording future projects? Or do you have visions of maybe going to a proper studio and recording there? Just because, you know, in this day and age, it's not uncommon to see music that ends up going really far that may have come from, you know, less traditional settings as far as recording goes.
Yeah, which I think is exciting. Yeah, that's funny. Before recording the EP and when I was sort of sorting out how we might go about it, initially I was like maybe considering the idea of doing it in a studio, but now I'm so glad that we didn't. And to answer your question, I think that I would want to do it the same way again, if it's possible, because I actually... After like working with Nate and doing it in this DIY fashion, I've actually come to prefer it because of how much time we can take and how money is not an object very much. And like also like I don't know, I'm just grateful for the patience that Nate had for like how detailed I was and like how we were kind of figuring out the extra layers of instrumentation as we were going. So we were kind of like writing certain parts of it as we went. Like all the songs were finished when I brought them into the studio. In the core sense of it, but we definitely like added a lot in the studio. So anyway, I was just glad that we had like a lot of time and we're on our own schedule, and honestly just that we were just working with each other, because also I think I am intimidated by working with like professionals in a studio. Not that it's not something that I'd want to do eventually, but I think I'm just like intimidated because I know I'm still learning, and also I think I'm the kind of person who just does a lot of takes as well, and I worry that I would like annoy people, or I don't know, like especially with guitar takes, I'm really confident in my guitar playing, but sometimes when the record button is pressed, I kind of like tense up and can't do it right. So I feel like that would just be amplified in a studio setting. But I'm also like, to be honest, like, you know, I'm not saying that I know that this would always be a factor, like that it would be a problem necessarily, but I can imagine a scenario in which, like, I don't know, working with a male producer, like being kind of belittled in that process, like, even if it's subtle. I can just imagine that being a thing. So if I were to work in a studio, I'd just want to make sure that it's like as comfortable as possible, which sounds obvious, but I do think a lot of like young artists kind of jump at any opportunity they get, and I want to use all the opportunities I can get, but I also want to be maybe more judicious than someone who's like super desperate, just because I know that like seems to be the advice that older, more seasoned musicians give, is to like be patient and like not work with people that you don't genuinely want to work with. That's what I gather from listening to interviews and stuff. So, yeah.
And you as a producer, what would be your thoughts on perhaps if there was a time that would maybe be more natural to transition to a more, as we were saying, professional studio type of environment? I mean, I imagine you'd at least be along for that type of process because you're have made your impact on the sound as it is now. So
yeah, I mean, it's all a matter of like, I want to have a professional studio, you know, it's just I got to get the money for that and the time for that, I guess, depending on what job I get when I graduate or lack thereof, you know, maybe I'll like become a full-time producer or something, you know.
There are worse things to be, I would say.
For sure. So yeah, I don't know, I mean, we were able to get what we need done with what we had, you know, but it probably would be easier if we had like a full studio space with like soundproof rooms and like more mics and stuff like that. But
yeah, I mean, and there were things that were like, you know, just little things that add up over time, like having to like leaving all the stuff in your basement, and they have ferrets, and like trying to make sure that everything's like ferret proof.
Got
like,
ferret proof. Those cords.
They always crawl into the back of the amp, and we're scared they're gonna get electrocuted, so we have to like block off the back.
That's pretty hazardous.
Yeah, it's pretty hazardous. And then like also, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like, well, I had to drive up to Nova to do the drums. For the drums, they were done by this kid named Justin Jen, and he was in my AP Music Theory class in high school. And I'm from Northern Virginia, and so I drove up to his house where he has like sort of an sound insulated basement to do that. But anyway, it's not that was like the hardest thing that someone has ever had to do, but I mean, like, if you had your own studio and we had like one central location for everything, I mean, that would have made it easier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just like another step, and so it's just more complicated. But yeah, but I mean, I think the gist is like, in most ways we're really happy with the way we did it. And I also too, like, I'm always encouraging Nate to like actually be a producer, because I think just something that you said that made me think of this, just in general, I think we find being like student musicians or like student creatives like challenging in terms of being able to devote all the time we want to music, and so I think that's just something that is like weird for us, being like, okay, we want to be like, you want to be a producer, like I want to be a musician, but like, how is that gonna happen?
Yeah.
And like honestly, it sounds gross, but like financially and otherwise, like, and just with, I don't know, like I don't write or record as much as I would if I wasn't doing school. So
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
And I also feel like if I producing music my full-time job, will I not enjoy it the same way I don't enjoy schoolwork? Like, because I'm actually having to like rush things, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
it's a scary question.
And then
Yeah.
like, if I go all into that type of life and forget what I'm doing at UVA, can I go back to what I had,
Right.
like the track I'm on at UVA, the more like stereotypical, like
There's a lot of uncertainty for
Yeah.
sure
yeah.
around these types of situations, but